Hello, everyone. I go by the name Jermaine Okpe, and we're live at the Law Crest LLP. Today, I am with Ken Williams and Ayomide, and we're talking about taxes. The question here is, why are influencers getting taxed? Why are celebrities and content creators getting taxed? I'm going to be passing the phone or passing the mic to these amazing lawyers to tell us why.
Thank you very much, Jermaine. So what I would say for influencers is that they're not getting taxed, especially under the new tax law. It consolidates all the taxes and makes sure that every single person pays their fair share of taxes. So it's just increases the tax bracket and makes sure that everybody pays tax, regardless of whether they work digitally, online, or even offline. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ken Williams, for that. The next one is a tweet from a girl called Anthony. She says, so after taking 20% from my earnings as tax, I will still pay rent and light bills. I should pay you 20% from a job you didn't provide for me. This thing is even funny.
Okay, for the 20% tax, it's not correct that a 20% is automatically imposed on your income or your salary. Under the new tax act, just like the old regime, there is what we call a tax band of graded tax rates, and you can rest assured that for the first 800,000 on an annual basis, you're not taxed at all for that amount. But on the subsequent amounts, there will be taxes. But the way it is structured in a progressive manner to make sure that the people that pay more taxes are people in the much higher tax bracket, not the low bracket people. Thank you.
Yeah, I was about to ask that. This conversation, is it for like people who sell like granuts and everything? It's only for content creators. Why even? Well, I thought they said content creation is not a real job.
So for content creation, as I said earlier, it's not a special group of people. They're just being taxed as ordinary individuals. Everybody's taxed. The granite seller, the banker, the content creator, everybody's being taxed under the same tax bracket.
Taxing granite seller.
Yes, it's income under the new tax act.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Ken Williams. Okay, so the next question is to Ayomide. I'm going to be reading a tweet that says, tax or fraud. I think Nigerians don't really understand what it means for your government to have access to your accounts. They can wreck you under the guise of tax, and you have to go through a long process to get your money back. And chances of that happening is zero.
Okay, so to that question, that's a very big misconception. One, the government doesn't have the right to just go into your bank account and, take whatever money they have assessed you or basically charge you as tax. What the law actually, the new tax act actually says is that banks are meant to make quarterly returns to the tax authorities for existing and new customers which have 25 million naira transactions in their bank account, and then for corporate 100 million naira in the bank account. And even then, where this even comes into play, the tax authorities have to go through due process. Most times they have to get a court order. They would have notified you, you would have responded, they would have given you a notice of refusal to reduce the chargeable tax, etc. And I think that in addition to that, the tax authorities can actually assign your tax debts to the banks, to recovery agents such as banks, etc., to recover that money on their behalf. But that is only after due process has been done, and in most cases you would have been notified of it. So this is a very common misconception.
Thank you so much. Round of applause for Ayo. The next tweet is from Shalom. He says, I like posts like this because it tells Nigerians that they deserve better, and then the rubbish they are getting. They remove subsidy. They are proposing 5% tax on fuel. They have repeatedly increased VAT. They want to remove education subsidies too. What do you think this person is driving at?
Right, thank you very much. So the common misconception in that tweet actually relates to VAT. And I think a lot of people are under the impression that VAT has actually been increased. But you can rest assured that VAT rate stays the same at 7.5%. There has been no increase to it. In fact, there are more efficient ways to make sure that any VAT you are paying is properly credited. So under the previous tax regime, for services, you could not claim input VAT on services. If you were a business and you were rendering services to people, you couldn't claim input VAT. You only had to pay output VAT, and this kind of increased the VAT amount that you were paying. But under the new tax regime, there is an input VAT that you can net off against your output VAT, and this reduces the amount of VAT that you actually pay.
Just to add on the issue that he raised about the cancellation of education tax, that's actually wrong. What they did, like Ken and earlier mentioned in the podcast or in this discussion, is that they consolidated all those levies together into one, which is development levy. So under the previous tax regime, we had different things like TED fund, that's tertiary education fund, etc., that police fund, etc., that different companies were paying and certain percentages that was going into the government post. But now everything has come to now. I think it's about 4% development levy, and it's not even chargeable on. Small companies are actually exempted from paying this tax.
Small companies. All right, next we have, what if you're working remote from a foreign company? If you're living abroad, your remote income is not taxable in Nigeria, even if they pay into your Nigerian bank. Only income from work done in Nigeria counts. So your WFH from London gig, Nigeria says enjoy your money. What does this mean? Foreigners do not get taxed in Nigeria if you're working like a foreign company.
All right. So while the general idea of that tweet is correct, I just want to clarify that it is not absolute that if you're a foreigner, you do not get taxed in Nigeria at all. What the new tax act has actually done is that it is construed. It's constructed in such a way to mean that even if you're living in diaspora, but you have any business, any project, any permanent establishment, which is how the tax act puts it, in Nigeria, or any significant economic presence, you will actually be taxed in Nigeria based on that income that you have generated from Nigeria. So while it is generally true that foreigners are not taxed in Nigeria as a non-resident, if you earn any income or salary from Nigeria, you'll be taxed on that amount. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. The next tweet is Nigeria's new tax law promise simplification but risk deepening in inequality. Cutting corporate tax to 27.5% is progress, yet adding a 5% fossil fuel levy on petroleum when prices already have hovered over 800 naira liters is regression. Reform must not punish those who can barely eat. Policy must feel the pulse of the people.
Okay, so on that, first, it's not company's income tax is chargeable or is 30%. That's one. And like I said earlier, small companies are exempted. And what are small companies? Basically, I just want to explain what small companies are in this context. So small companies are companies who have a gross revenue of 50 million yearly, and their assets are no more than 250 million. And this excludes professional services or firms or companies rendering professional services. Like TLC now is excluded from the definition of a small company, or even though we do not make up to 50 million in a year. So no matter what we make, we're still, liable to pay companies income tax. That's one. Now, and two, it is 30%, like I earlier mentioned, right? Not 27.5%. And even the issue of the fuel tax, this was under the previous tax regime, but it was never implemented. They just lifted it. Like I said earlier, it was a consolidation of the different laws into one for simplification, for access, for compliance. Because, when you have different laws and you're trying to find out, is this applicable to me? Do I fall under this? It can be very expensive to comply with. That was why they consolidated. So they did not add, the fuel tax is not a recent addition. It's something that has been in formal law.
Gilo. So let's take one more tweet before we call it a wrap. And I hope by watching this, we are shedding some light on the new tax reform, right? I'll be taking the last tweet. These new tax laws need to be talked about more. They will be taking 20% of my money. Why? How to do what with? So they're asking, what are they using the 20% to do?
All right, so that tweet feeds into the earlier misconception that 20% of your salary is automatically taxed. So just to clarify again, as an individual in Nigeria, there is a graded tax system for everybody, but this tax covers everything from your employment to your digital assets to crypto to everything. So even if you're just a forex trader, once you are earning that amount and you are a resident of Nigeria, you are liable to pay tax, but that tax is going to be based on the graded system. So if you're earning less than 800,000, or if you're even earning more than that, you're going to fall into your respective band, not more, not less. Thank you very much.
All right, so it's been amazing talking about tax. If you know you want to watch more videos like this, make sure you follow TLC, or rather follow the Law Crest LLP. And I go by the name Jermaine OG. I was your lovely host, and thank you guys for training me, teaching me. I did my externship here at the LLP, and it's been an honor to be under your administration.
Very, very. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and signing out. Good night.